Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much for joining us. We're here at the Watertown Sportsman's Club. So I'm curious, are you a fan of shooting as a sport? Is it something you grew up doing?
Actually, it's really fun. It's not something I grew up doing. My former husband was in the Navy, and he introduced me to it, and just for fun. I'm not a hunter or anything. I just enjoy doing like sporting clays and target shooting. Trap shooting is really fun, and it's just something I enjoy doing. My son is a Marine, so it's one of his passions. Is he loves to do shooting, and he loves to do it. Although he got used to shooting rifles, and when I brought him out to a sporting clays course, it was a different experience for him. So we were almost on par for a little while, and then of course he moved right up, and he's an excellent shooter. But it's fun to do. I mean, it's really a fun thing to do. It's a very old sport and very popular sport. It's an Olympic sport, as we've seen. It's part of all different aspects of Olympic sports. So it's just fun. I don't have a lot of time to do the things I love to do. I love to golf. I love to ride my motorcycle. I don't get to do a lot of those things. I'm so busy, and my district is so large, and there's just a lot of needs. So I do a lot of. I love what I do, though. I love my job. I love the people I represent. So.
Did you always dream? Let's go back. I love kind of nestling into those, those childhood days, those teenage years when so many people start thinking about what they want to do with their lives, what career path they want to follow. If I went back and looked in your yearbook, would there be any mention of I want to be a lawmaker one day?
Not at all. Although I grew up in a political family, my mother's father was a politically involved person. Never took a paying job or anything. He never took patronage or anything, but he was involved with a Republican committee in Madison County. And then my father was the Oneida County Republican chair, and then was elected to be a Supreme Court justice. He served this region, the 5th Judicial District, for almost a little over 35 years. We think he's the longest serving New York State Supreme Court justice in New York. And so, no, it was never something I wanted to do. I went to law school. I sort of paid attention to it, but really what I wanted to do, it's hard to believe, I was an equestrian, and I showed all over the Northeast, a little bit in Florida, and I really just wanted to be a rider and a trainer and an artist. It's really what I always wanted. I love art. I love drawing. I love painting. I took all kinds of art courses, even in college. And when I returned home from college, and we lived in Canandaigua, New York, after law school with my former husband, and ended up back in Utica, and I took courses at Munson Williams Proctor Institute on painting and a lot of great things. So I've always been a lover of art. I studied in Italy, actually. So I thought that's what I was always going to do, honestly. And my aunt, who is a well-known artist in the Charlottesville community, said to me, you can always be an artist. You have the mind for a lawyer. You should go to law school and you can enjoy art your whole life. And she was somewhat right. I do, I think practicing law for me was kind of like an art form. It's creative. You have to think of ways to solve problems, how to meet the needs of your clients, come up with great solutions, and like art, there's no such thing as a finished work of art. It's just abandoned, and you have to move on to the next thing. So one thing I do love about being a legislator and doing what I do, I served in the state legislature. One thing I love about this job is it's similar to that. There's creativity. You got to think of things that you go to your database of knowledge and experiences. I use my legal expertise and background. I was a banking law, but I also did I did just about everything that you could do in a small law practice, and also worked on a lot of local government issues. So for me, I try to bring all that together to solving problems and trying to help our communities. And so there isn't really a job where you can do this at the scale that we can, and I think that's the part I really like about it the most. And that's how I ended up here. So not ever thinking, I'm going to run for office someday. It was just never something I ever dreamed about or thought about. I was hoping to maybe be an Olympic equestrian or somebody. So I'm the one watching all the equestrian events.
You're the person.
Yeah. I'm also the one watching all the curling events when the Winter Olympics comes, because I was a curler as well. Hard to believe, but this is upstate New York. We have curling, a lot of curling. I just did that for a couple of years, though.
I want to talk. You mentioned the Olympics. You mentioned watching the equestrian events. Did I read you played a role in the past with the Olympics in some way, shape, or form?
I worked on the Winter Olympics in 1984 when I lived and worked for the former Yugoslav consulate, back when there was a country of Yugoslavia, way before the war in 1984. That's where the Olympics were, in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, and had worked and traveled in Yugoslavia after I studied in Italy. I loved that so much. I got on a study group to Yugoslavia and spent a semester there as a Colgate student. and fell in love with the country. It was so interesting and diverse and so much going on. Really such an important part of the world that you never think about when you're a student. It's become a huge part of my life for over 40 years now. I've been back there numerous times. I lived there, went back and studied there, went back and studied a bunch more times, studied Serbo-Croatian, studied Croatian. I've been to all parts of that part of the world. And just it's been kind of like a lifelong passion for me, and it still is. I love the people from the region. The history is just incredible, and it's so important in world history, and we often forget about it because we just focus on places that are more economically strong, but not as strategically important as the Balkan region, as the gateway between the East and the West, right on the Adriatic Sea, which is part of the Mediterranean. I mean, huge, important part of the world that we often forget.
You never thought about being a diplomat?
Oh yes, that's I have thought about that.
Is it still on your to-do list?
I don't know. We'll see. But one of the interesting things, I studied Serbo-Croatian, Croatian, and my father used to say, why are you learning that language? You should learn Spanish. That no one speaks. You're not going to ever use it. And sadly, the war happened in Yugoslavia. It was real tragic because I knew people from everywhere when I worked in the consulate. They were from all parts of it, different families. Basically nobody at the civilian level supported any of it. But it was obviously a disaster with government, a failure of a self-management system that they had in place to try to keep them going. Tito had died, and I could see, just as someone that was an observer, that it was eroding. And we got very involved, worked with the Jewish Community Center to bring Bosnian refugees to Utica, and we became a refugee destination, and it was really a really fun part of my life. So I would love to serve at some level at some point if I ever have the opportunity.
You've been in other parts of the world, but you've spent most of your life in upstate New York.
Yes.
When you meet people from other parts of the world, when you talk to your fellow lawmakers in the halls of Congress from other parts of the country, what do you tell them that you love about upstate New York?
What's funny about even when I went to school, my mother was from Hamilton, New York. I went to Colgate University, which is in Hamilton, and even my friends from Colgate, and now to my friends from the state assembly, to jobs that I've had through my world travel, also my travel and meeting people from the House of Representatives. Everyone's like, people from upstate New York are special. There's something about them. A little hard to get to know at first, but once you know people from upstate New York, the warmth, the hospitality, that wonderful quality that upstate New Yorkers have, they have a lot of grit, they have hard work ethic. My passion is for upstate New York, and my mother was from here. My father actually came from New Jersey and fell in love and never wanted to leave. He loved the area. You got to say we have one of the most beautiful parts of the world. In my district, New York 24, almost all of the Ontario shoreline, to the Finger Lakes, to the Southern Tier. It's just an amazing place. And I live on Oneida Lake, which I've always wanted to live on Oneida Lake for many years, just to have access to a lake. So I live on the North Shore, and even in the cold of winter, it is beautiful. The snow glistening on the frozen lake, people on their ice fishing huts out there. It's just year-round. I love the seasons. I love the people. And it's just a complete honor to represent this region, which I call home. Always have. Don't want to live anywhere else, honestly.
And you've been here a long time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of years.
A lot of years. We'll take that. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You.
But before we go, I was sort of hoping we could maybe hit the shooting range.
Yes, we'd love to do that. That's fun.
All right, let's go.
You've never shot?
I've never shot. This will be a first.
We're going to train you on that. Good job. Thank you. I would say, you got to get into the gun a little more. I'd say bend into it and have a little more, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so you talked about that athletic stance.
Straighten out a little bit. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to have it so the gun is kind of part of you when you move, and then it keeps you more on, you can get to the target easier. I'm saying that as one who hit 1 out of 6 or something, whatever I did.
Okay, pull.
You're shooting over.
Too high.
Too high.
Okay, pull. Got it! Woo! There, the last one's a charm.